let's finish off Nickelodeon Movie Month with Wonder Park. And yeah, it's odd that this movie be called Wonder Park when the park in the movie actually be called Wonderland, but obviously they can't call it Wonderland. Makes me wonder why they even called it Wonderland to begin with. Anyways, bottom line is, it's a film that, well, you get a general sense of it through the trailer and through the ads for it, but at the same time, it's not quite what you think it is. In fact, it's actually a bit more than that, even though it's, well, what it is. Anyway, a girl named Joy has created a fantasy amusement park with all kinds of different things in it called Wonderland with her mother, voiced by Jennifer Garner, and is so impressed with it to the point that she and her friend are, as well as neighborhood kids, are trying to recreate the roller coaster throughout their neighborhood and end up doing a severe amount of damage. The girl agrees to start limiting things to the household, but then her mother unfortunately falls ill from an unspecified illness and has to go be treated by has to go away to be treated by special doctors. The girl struggling to come to terms with this, Joy struggling to come to terms with this, decides to stop working on the park and quote unquote put away childish things. As a result, she ends up an unhappy child. Her father desperately trying to get her to act like a kid again, and to the point that she's heading off to math camp as a means of trying to make that happen. However, during the camp, worried about her father, she sneaks away, played by Matthew Broderick. Joy sneaks away and ends up getting lost in the woods, then coming upon, you guessed it, Wonderland in all its glory as a reality, among which are the animal characters from the park, two beavers played by Kenan Thompson and Ken Jeong. They're supposed to be brothers. That's an odd combo. A warthog played by Mila Kunis. A porcupine played by John Oliver. And a bunch of stuffed chimpanzees, which are being controlled by something called the darkness, turning them to zombies and causing them to destroy every little bit of the park. Could this all be connected to what's going on in Joy's reality some way or another? So, yeah, the movie is for an adult who sits through it. What it's trying to do is pretty obvious, and it's not hard to figure out. You understand why exactly the darkness is there, what exactly the park is supposed to represent, what exactly circumstances are supposed to represent. Heck, John Oliver's character even flat out says that it's an existential crisis. And yeah, this is both some deep stuff for kids, and yet at the same time it's, well, not deep stuff for an adult. I mean, the thing is, an adult can sit through this movie and kind of like nod their head and be like, yeah, I understand it, I get it. And then if a kid figures these things out, their mind will be blown. At the same time, though, I mean, you look at something like Inside Out, which wasn't obvious with its ideas of what happens outside affecting what's inside, and what's happening inside affecting what's outside, and you could kind of figure it out yourself, but then you had to think deeper as to what each and everything meant. Here, it's not that deep. It actually is kind of spelling things out for you, and not being that good at being nonchalant about it, being inconspicuous about it. Instead being rather apparent and transparent about it. And at the same time, though, there's nothing wrong with that, because you do get creative visuals. I mean, the characters are drawn are drawn creatively, they move creatively. And yeah, the gags, even though they're there, they're not intrusive in any way, shape, or form to the narrative. They don't make things too. They don't distract from it. And the focus is, again, where it should be. So, yeah, at the same time as saying that this is a film that's making itself, that's trying to balance these things out, there are times where you're going to be distracted by one over the other, or vice versa. And at the same time, though, there's nothing wrong with that, because, yeah, this is a kid's film that is acknowledging the fact it's a kid's film. It's not going to be over. Now, there are plenty of kids' films that are great because they are complicated, because they make you think about things. Here, you don't have to think so much, but at the same time, what it's trying to say is important. What it's trying to say is valuable. I mean, you think of the fact that, and at the same time, I kind of thought to myself the imaginative aspects of the way that the kids' world interacts with the adults' world in other Nickelodeon movies, animated Nickelodeon movies, such as the Rugrats movie or Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. So, yeah, it does kind of actually fit in with those two, believe it or not. I mean, it's not in the same league, but still, it's impressive nonetheless. I'd say that with the idea of showing the turmoil of, essentially what's the turmoil of a child's mind when they have such positive thoughts but then find they're intruded by negative ones. I mean, yeah, again, it's not something kids usually see in films like this, and to have it addressed like that is kind of a daring move. And again, it's not going for, well, this is a simple story and a simple execution. It's not going for simple, easy answers. And it doesn't really exactly do that by the end of the movie, showing how, like, there is certain things that you're gonna have to keep in mind as you grow older, but at the same time, you know that they only have as much power as you let them have. And again, I think that message gets across quite well. So for what this film is, I think that it is hitting the mark on what it's doing, even if it's not great by any stretch of the imagination, even if it doesn't nail it by the means that it should. So take it for what it's worth, and you find you might have a good time at the fair. And that's it for Nickelodeon Movie Month. Thank you so much to everybody who watched. And yeah, 23 years of 20, about 22 years to 23 years of 30 movies, 4G, 4 PG-13, and 22 PG movies. And yeah, live action, animation, fantasy, comedy, heck, even documentary. There's some stuff here that, yeah, you wouldn't have expected from Nickelodeon, and the fact that it can be called Nickelodeon, I think, shows that when they decided to be versatile, Nickelodeon could be very versatile. And again, the sense of how you think of Disney doesn't exactly show you what it's like to be a child, and even though it definitely has the adventure element and definitely makes you feel like a child, here a Nickelodeon movie can kind of capture the spirit of adventure, but at the same time kind of show you a child experiencing that adventure and fantasy in a way that, well, I don't think you'd exactly see anywhere else. I'm not exactly saying, well, I'd say Disney's better at plenty of the things it does. I'd say that Nickelodeon's unique enough that it shouldn't be shut down or thought of as lesser just because it's not Disney. I think the thing is, if there is, Nick is Nick, and to call it Disney would not truly be right. It could have elements of Disney at times, But at the same time, the fact that it managed to produce such unique movies, whether it be good films, bad films, odd films, or surprisingly deep films, yeah, there is an impression being left here in more ways than one. Again, I appreciate the time and attention, and I will see you next time with any and all reviews that I got coming in the pipeline. Catch you on the flip side.